Okay.
That's our distance, which is the 2,317 yards. So that's the 2,317 yards. And
target, we've got 8 to 12.
Yep.
And shooter, 8 to 10.
Okay, they're both at 10 o'clock, are they?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
The temperature, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry.
Yep.
And humidity, 59.4%.
Yep.
And pressure, 29.06 inches of mercury.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, cool. So we've also got bullet temp of 52 degrees. Okay, so yeah, cool. That gives us, with the 2,317 yards, that gives us a total of, just bullet drop of 1,414 minutes and windage of 14.5. But with an azimuth of 91 degrees, we haven't really got any shooter angle from 900 to 1,080. It's not worth factoring in. What I have calculated is essentially 1.98 for our spin left, with a full with wind at, like, I'm going to go to an average of our highs, so 11 miles an hour. I'm going to go to a 3/4, basically 0.75 down for our spin elevation, because it's coming and pushing the bullet down a little, or the bullet's dragging itself down. Coriolis of 0.58 right and down 1.22. So those totals are 1.4 left, 1.4, and 1.97, so 2 down. So that's going to give us 12.5 MOA elevation and 16.5 windage left. Okay, cool. Well, let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12.5 and 10, 6. There we go. 16.5 left. Let's pull that off. That's nice and straight. Okay. I lined up that pretty well.
Okay. Good to go.
Okay, well, let's see, Sam.
Okay. Target moved. I think there's something on the left, just the very edge, like 8 o'clock. The mirage is pretty high.
Okay. I'll put another one in, Sam, and
Yep.
let's see what happens with that.
Okay. Target down. Hey, good job. Got him. Target down.
Okay, well, that was good.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Hey, well, awesome. That worked great. We decided to come out and use this one. We've done a fair bit of shooting with this 300 Win Mag. It shoots really nicely. I've got good data on it as well, like my Lapua. And I thought we'd come out and do this similar shot out same sort of range. It's a little bit shorter, we're about 60 yards shorter than they were. Wait a minute, take them off again, I always forget. Than we did with the 328 last week. But I wanted to go through and do it and really see if I could get my first shot hit, which we pulled off. So that's what I wanted to do to make it, I'll turn them off so they stop yelling, to get the first shot hit, which we should be able to do. There's a fair bit of effort and there's a fair bit of variables, and really at this sort of range I'm still not confident enough to be able to know I'm going to do it. But there is a fair few variables. One of the things I'd like to go into and explain in a little more detail is a couple of things as how we do things, and the rest of the world might already, but I'm not really sure on it. So I'd like to go through and explain it. That's basically talking about using the likes of a Ballistic app, which is essentially the software out of Ballistic engines, which essentially is programs, algorithms, equations, designed to be able to, where you plug in your details, and with BC and muzzle velocity and weather conditions, you can get yourself on target. What I find, the way I use these things, and I've said it a few times, is I'm using data. I'm recording lots of data on the things. I'm going through and making sense of things. And that lets you verify what you're actually doing, but it also is how I actually use this machine. I don't actually, or rarely, I shouldn't say I don't, but I rarely go through and measure my muzzle velocity. I'll go through, I have my muzzle velocities worked out to start off with, and then I'll go through and shoot, and I then use the Ballistic app to tell me what my muzzle velocity is. If I change my load around a little bit, I can work it out by my bullet drop and my weather with all my conditions with enough data to be able to fine tune it in here. But in truth, once we start to get out to the extreme long range, I haven't found too many of them that I really believe work spot on for me. So I'll then start to manipulate in the Ballistic app. I'll move my muzzle velocity around, I'll move my BC around, and just tweak them one way or the other way, just trial and error, to make them match up to my data. It means that you're loading, it means you're shooting, it means you're recording, all need to be spot on. But I've actually found that you can quite thoroughly go through and, with reasonable success I should say at least, go through and record information that then, and let you tweak your Ballistic app around to where you can get very, very close. There are lots of details. I had a conversation, an internet conversation with someone this week talking about, I forgot what he called it, it was crosswind bullet jump. What we're actually talking about there is what I actually used in this shot, which is your spin drift elevation component. There's lots of different names for it, and I can't remember. There's a vector factor, there's all sorts of things. It's quite a simple process that we're actually talking about. We're actually talking about the fact that the bullet is rotating. Because it's rotating, that's what gives it spin drift, which means that as it falls, as it goes through its natural form of bullet drop, it's rotating, it has more pressure on the side that is falling, because it's essentially falling down, and that essentially gives it traction and moves it to the right, or to the left, whichever way your barrel's spinning. The next side of it, the elevation component, is really something I found I understand it, and I've used it, and I'm still learning about it, don't get me wrong, but essentially is that if you have a constant wind pushing against the side of the bullet, then you've got two factors that spin drift are affecting. One, it's falling through the air, so it's got the traction pulling it to the right, but the other is, if you've got wind pushing essentially from the left-hand side onto the bullet, you'll actually see that spinning is actually causing the bullet, it's driving itself down. The bullet is going to roll down and spin off there, so you get a little bit of a downward component. The converse happens, the opposite happens. If you've got it spinning here and the wind is pushing from the right onto the bullet, it's going to climb up. So you're going to get a slight factor of movement with of spin drift, elevation, what I essentially call my elevation component of spin drift. The conversation I was actually having was about last week's shot, where we had wind from both directions. And although there is no doubt that component, once you've got multiple direction winds, trying to factor in that component, I have no way of telling me what percentage or where that changes over, whether it's in the middle, whether it's all the way up near the target, or where those winds are. So once you've got multiple winds from different directions, I zero it. I come back to zero. You might find a few shots in, And as we learn, we might find that we can move and read more and realise that, okay, 3/4 of our wind is pushing to the right and only 1/4 of it's pushing to the left, and then you could factor something in. But in a multiple wind situations, I zero my my elevation side of things. The coriolis, that's another long conversation, and I've heard both sides of it. I do find there is a factor that affects us, and I do use it, and I simply use the Ballistic apps. In that I tend to use the Ballistic AE app for the coriolis side of things and my spin drift side of things. That works really well, and that works nicely for me. But once again, you can factor that in. There's variables that will change that, and it's all the same. With your data, you're going to be able to go through and verify that and make it work. So I would say my honest call on this sort of stuff is that the Ballistic apps are awesome. You know, they work really well, they make it easy, and really out to 1,000 yards, you know, with some rifles out to 1,500, 1,800 yards, you don't have to do too much. Once you go past that point, you go into your 2,000s and 3,000s, there's a lot of work. Your data is a big deal of making that work really well for you. Anyway, we'll go and look at our target. I just wanted to go through that. Sorry to preach, but I wanted to go through that in a little bit more detail. This rifle shot just like it's supposed to. That's really nice. You know, to be able to get up there and hit that plate on the first shot, that's exactly what I was hoping to do. So we'll go and have a look and see what we did, and we'll see you up there. Okay, well, definitely got our 2 hits.
Yeah, we did.
So, awesome. Okay, well, so the first one was right over on the left there. Pull a little bit left. They're both left, so I probably allowed a tiny bit too much wind. I actually thought we'd must have hit low for it to not drop, so I did raise it. I raised it by probably 1/3 of a target, so that went pretty much where it's supposed to, but I'm pretty happy. Two shots, 2 hits, can't complain about that. Have a look around there so you can see, you know, this little rocky outcrop we're using to be able to shoot into for the winter time. It's still pretty tricky to see stuff. If you're not really right on your target, it's really hard to spot, but our actual target is out there behind those 2 silos. There's a group of trees. Pretty much from the middle of that group of trees we're really shooting from. And can you see from there, Sam, the our other wind flag?
I just have to come forward a bit for that one.
Over there you can see it really is up in that 11-12 miles an hour. So, you know, the wind, it's a very tricky component of trying to especially cross undulating land like this with a couple of valleys we're shooting across. But there's a couple other details I'd like to mention. I mentioned down there about the apps and about tweaking them and using your data to do that sort of thing. I found in quite a few ways that there's other things that I do. The wind is obviously one there's a lot of work to do with it. Your spin drift components, your muzzle velocity, all those sort of things that you can tweak. But the other things that I've found in there that I definitely do mess with, and I definitely try and make suit the rifle, is the temperature compensations. It isn't always the same. I tend to be running very low numbers. The powders we use don't tend to seem to make a huge difference on the temperature, although there is differences. But I'd also tell you that the data is king in a way of telling you what's going on. I have a couple of rifles that I find there's a couple of different things going on with heating up your powder and making it burn faster. There's obviously hot air, which is thinner air, so bullets travel easier through it, so you've got a little bit of that going on. But you've also got hot powder, which makes the bullet burn, or make the explosion of the powder push harder and burn faster, so the bullet goes faster. But then I'd also say I've found in a hot barrel, some don't seem to be affected. Some you'll start to see too much pressure on your rounds and that sort of stuff. But I've actually, in my 243, found that once I'm getting into a hot barrel, I'll start to see my bullet drop increase. So I'll see my point of impact lower the hotter the actual barrel gets. And that's then balanced by how long you leave the bullet in the chamber, so how much the powder heats up and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to go through and talk about any particular rifle. What I am talking about is data is king. Data is the bit where you write it down, you record it, you make sense of it. When I go out to do a shot with the rifle, I go back across my data. I try and get my ballistic calculator, my ballistic app, to where it makes sense. But I'll always go, I pick up a gun after not seeing it for a month, I'll go back through things and relook at that and make sure I got it right and change those numbers around and try and fine tune it. And of course the ultimate test is go out here and try a cold bore shot. Lots of other factors with winds, updrafts and downdrafts and all sorts of things you run into, but I'm super happy with that. I won't call it anything other than a little bit lucky, because I might not be able to do that tomorrow, but did it today, so I'm happy with that, and I'm glad to share, and we'll catch you next time.